Python tutorial. This tutorial is brought to you by EdNight. So please like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell to get more of our content. So today we are going to be taking a quick look into data types. We are going to explain what data types are in the context of programming and the type of data that we have, not only in Python but in programming in general. So from the definition of computer, we already know that data types are very important, that data is very important to the computer. We know the definition of computer to be an electronic device that accepts data, process data and give out an output. From this definition, you can detect that data is very important to the world of computer. The computer literally runs on data. So we are going to be taking a quick look into everything connected to data. So before I continue, I would like to give a quick definition, or rather a brief definition, on what data type is. A data type is a classification of data that tells the compiler or interpreter how a programmer intends to use data. So when you hear the word or the phrase data type in the context of programming, we are just talking about a classification of data. We are talking about what type of data or what type of what type of information is being passed to the computer. This data can come in numbers, letters, characters, but we just want to know the type of data that it is. So from the definition, you can see that the data type actually tells the compiler or the interpreter what the programmer intends to do with the data, meaning that the data types dictate the action or operation that can be performed on a particular data. So for a computer to actually process data, it actually needs to know the type of data it is. For example, you cannot do addition or a mathematical operation on letters, something like a plus a. That is absolutely wrong and impossible, because alphabets cannot add each other. But you can actually do it on numbers. Maybe 1 plus 1 will give you an output. So the type of data actually detects the kind of, or rather dictates the kind of operation that can be performed on a particular data. So let's take a quick look at the categories of data types in Python or programming in general. So the first, we have the numeric types. So this numeric type just has to do with numbers. Any data type that have to do with numbers is under the numeric type. Mostly they are classified into these two: integers and floats. So when we talk about integers, we talk about the normal number from 1 to 0, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just anything that is number is mostly referred to as integers. So we have the float. The floats are mostly numbers with decimal points. For example, 3.14. Floating numbers, or rather floating point numbers, are just numbers with decimal points. So the second category is the sequence type. So we have the string, list and tuple. So what is a string? A string normally is just a representation of characters. They are just in a sequence. For example, we have hello on the screen. H there is a character, E is a character, L is a character, O is a character, but all of these are in a sequence. So whenever we hear the word string, we are just talking about a sequence of character. Mostly strings are quoted. In general, in computer in general, strings are usually quoted using the inverted comma. So we have the list. The list represents ordered collection of items, and we are not going to be taking much look into what lists are in this video, but just so you know that a list is also a sequence type. It's a data type that also has to do with a collection of items. For example, when you're making a list of things, you actually bring collection of different things. So when we talk about list in the context of computer, it's still the same ideology, just a collection of items. So in computer, a list is usually shown by using this square bracket. As I said before, we are not going to be taking deep look into what lists are. Then still under the sequence type, we have the tuple. The tuple represents immutable ordered collection of items. So the tuple is just like a list, but in this case the tuple is not editable. Once the tuple is made, it cannot be edited. So we are not also going to be taking deep look into what tuples are in this video. We are just going to be taking a look into integers, floats, strings and booleans. But I just want to introduce you to at least all the data types that we have in Python. Though these are not all the data types, but these are the most used. So we have the mapping type. So the mapping type, we have the dictionary. So now the dictionary represents key value pair. The dictionary is usually represented by using this curly bracket. So in a bit I'm going to be showing you this using code, but for now I just want to go through the explanation. We have the set type. We have the set and the frozen set. The set represents unordered collection of unique items, while the frozen set represents immutable sets. We are not going to be taking a deep look into the set type today, but I just want you to know we have a data type called set in programming. So we also have the boolean type. So when we talk about boolean in the context of computer, we are just talking about true or false. So the boolean are usually used to depict when a particular action is either 0 or 1. 0 in the sense of false and 1 in the sense of true. So boolean only have two data, which is either true or false, as I said earlier. We are going to be taking a look into that. So the last type of data or category that I have on my list here is the none type. This just represents null value. So we are not going to be taking too much or talking too much about all these data types, but we are going to be taking a look into few. So let me open my VS Code and explain a few of these data types. As I said earlier, we are just going to be taking a look into strings, integers, floating point numbers, and booleans. So firstly, let's look at the strings. So what is the string? I say that the string is just a sequence of character. For example, let's use a variable. Let's name this variable string. So equals to make a string, normally we use the quote, this inverted comma. To make a string, we have to use the inverted comma or quotes. It could be a single quote or a double quote, as you can see on your screen. So anything in between these quotes is called a string. Both the spaces, the letters, anything, it could be anything, but it is called a string as far as it's in between these quotes. Let's write something reasonable. Rather, I love programming. So everything in this code is a string. Both the space, the letters, everything is a string. Even if I'm to add numbers here, it's also a string. As far as it's in between these quotes, it is a string. So you can use a single quote or a double quote. So the next, we're going to talk about integers. I told you that integers just had to do with whole numbers. For example, let's go for integer. So when we save integers, we're just talking about numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're talking about numbers, just normal numbers. So we go to floats. So as you can see, float is a reserved word, so we cannot use float. Let's try floating point. So floating points are just numbers with decimal points. Just any number with decimal point is clearly seen as a floating point number. So we also have the boolean. So the boolean, I'm going to use bool here, other boolean. I cannot use bool because it's a reserved word. So we're going to say the boolean variable can only be either true or false. The data type can only be either true or false. These are the only two boolean data. So as I said earlier, we are just going to be taking a look into this four: the string, integer, float, and boolean. For the sake of this video, we are not going to be going far to explain every data type that we have in programming. So I've explained what the string is, that anything in between this quote is called a string. And I've explained what integers are. Integers are just numbers. And what floats are? Floats are just number with decimal point. And boolean is just a true or false. So let's also talk about the none type. None just has to do with nothing. When I say none, when somebody say none, we are just dealing with nothing. So the none type is just practically a null value. So these are the 5 most used data type in programming. So and we have learned how you can make them and what they are. So we're going to be looking at something about converting data types. So in some programming language, in order for us to actually make a variable, we usually declare the type of data type that variable is going to save. But in Python, it's actually different. As you can see, Python is dynamically typed, meaning that we do not need to declare what type of data type it is. The interpreter just finds out on its own. So for us to know what type of data type variable is, we can use the type keyword. So let's pass in the first variable, string. Let's print this. Let's save it and run it. Okay, we ran into an error. So indentation error. So as I said in the previous video, indentation is very important in Python. So the error is coming from this space that I accidentally added here. So let's save that and run it. So we can see that this variable is of type string. Usually we use the str to represent string. So let's check for the second variable, the integer. Print type integer. So we can see that the integer variable is of type int, which is a short form for integer. So let's look at the floating point. Let's just look at the boolean too. So as you can see, this is how we can actually figure out what type of a data a variable is saving, or what type of data a variable actually is. For example, you can save anything in a variable. If you want to actually know what type of data this variable is, you can use the type keyword. You use the type keyword and then you pass in the variable as an argument to get the type of that variable. So Python also supports type conversion. For example, you can convert a variable that was an integer to a string, or convert an integer to a float, or convert a string to an integer, etc. So Python make room for data conversion, though there are some rules guiding those conversion, but there is room for it in Python. So I can easily convert my integer to a floating point, with floating point number. So let's print something to our screen. I just need the float keyword. Then I pass in the argument. In this case it's integer. I save it. So if you look, we can see that the value of the integer was 12, but now it has now been converted to a floating point number by adding the 0 to it. Remember that floating points are just numbers with decimal point. So for 12 to become a number with decimal point, or a floating point number, we just need to add a decimal point to it. So we can also convert floating numbers to integers. By using the int keyword. So the value of the floating point number here was 12.9, but now we can see it has been converted to an integer. So for a number to become an integer, we just need to remove the decimal point. It has to be a whole number. So we can also convert strings to integers, or integers to strings. So for example, I can convert so I want to print the type after the conversion. But let's just grab all of this and just print the type after the data has been converted. So we can see the first thing we are printing to our screen is the type string. So we were converting this integer to a string. You can see our integer has been converted to a string. So this is how we can do type conversion. We can also convert from string to integer, but in this case the string has to be just numbers, because you cannot convert alphabet to numbers, right? So if you want to convert a string to an integer, you need to actually only save numbers as strings. For example, as you can see, I just cleaned every alphabet. If I wanted to convert this, I just need to use the int keyword, then pass in this variable, this string variable, as an argument in order to convert it to an integer. So this is basically everything you need to know about data type on a beginner's level. So thanks for watching. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please like, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. If this video was helpful to you in any way, please like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you.